Hey everyone, Edward here at Windows Report, and this is me. So, today's discussion is pretty interesting and it involves a bit of history. Oh, come on, I'm sure some of you like history, or at least some type of history. Well, we made a compilation of the 10 most important moments in the history of Microsoft. But why? Well, because they do have quite some history and we have to start rolling the tape of time. So probably the most important moment that started everything is the actual creation of the Microsoft company, which happened in 1975. Yes, 1975. That's 47 years ago. Just imagine that. Some of you were kids back then, and maybe some of you pre-planned in the grand scheme of the universe. That way back. The company was founded by two childhood friends, Bill Gates and Paul Allen, and their selling proposition was to make computer software. Well, it seems it worked out because here we are, having to create tons of solutions for issues on their operating systems. Ouch! Later on, Microsoft moves from Albuquerque to Bellevue, Washington, and afterwards establishing in Redmond for good. So this is where they are now. The next most important moment in Microsoft's life was 6 years later, which happened in 1981, when the company went to license MS-DOS, which was Microsoft's first operating system meant for x86 assemblies. This was a huge moment as IBM introduced this operating system for its first personal computer, which looked kind of like this. Stylish, I reckon, but heavy nevertheless. This is how a portable computer looked like, so you can imagine carrying it on the busy streets of New York, getting your workout in the same time. Now, moving on, the next important moment in Microsoft's history was when co-founder Paul Allen had to depart from Microsoft after being diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, but fortunately he was successfully treated for the disease and went on to pursue other business areas and involved with a great deal of philanthropy. Now, moving on to 1985, Microsoft releases Windows 1.0. And this was basically the first huge step towards operating systems like we have now, because it was more of a graphical operating environment. That means it had multitasking capability, running graphical programs despite lots of negative reviews. And yes, even though most critics thought that this operating system has potential, it seemed like its performance was very poor while operating multiple applications at once. Well, time has passed until Windows released probably the most legendary operating system which might still be used in some parts of the world. Trust me. 10 years later, Windows 95 makes its apparition, and as well Internet Explorer, which was a huge step towards users getting a proper interface to surf the internet. And here's a picture of the Windows 95 interface. Seems like something already becomes familiar, right? So then why was this moment so important? Well, this was the first commercial operating system aimed at any audiences. Regular folks like me and you, and not only professionals or hobbyists. Its interface became super easy to use and highly efficient and paved way for a safe road to the internet. Now, moving on, after a few iterations of the Windows 95 OS, which were Windows 98 and Windows 2000, with their dose of criticism, we arrive to one of the golden moments of our times. So in 2001 we get Microsoft Office for XP with the official Windows XP release, which in my opinion was probably the greatest operating system that Windows delivered to its consumers until now. And of course the ultra-famous Xbox console. So when I think of Windows XP, I hear this and visualize this. Let's face it, Windows XP was a great operating system with an amazing user interface at that time, with plenty of possibilities for creative purposes, work, or entertainment. Along came Microsoft Office, which is nowadays a huge tool for most businesses in many parts of the world, and the Xbox console, which created a huge gaming revolution and became a strong contender in the console gaming industry. Moving on, years later, after the successful Windows Server in 2003, which was a brand for server operating system launched by Microsoft, and after Xbox 360, which was also a huge hit, Bill Gates, the only co-founder left at Microsoft, slowly transitions from his day-to-day role at Microsoft to his work at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which was a private philanthropic organization that supported a broad range of social, health and education development. So that means that both founders left the company. But Bill Gates still remained a few years as a chief software architect, at Windows. While later on, Microsoft moves into the realm of smartphone operating systems by launching the Windows Phone 7 in 2010. This was the first mobile client operating system released by Microsoft, which seemed to be criticized by many users as feeling and being incomplete from many points of view: user interface, performance, and security. But in the end, the Windows Phone idea was ditched and no one ever looked back. Except me now. And now, slowly heading to the end, we are in 2012 and Microsoft is releasing its first Surface line. Marketed as Surface RT, this paved the way for years of new generations of the Surface devices, which are now highly successful and sought after, even though they are pretty pricey for what they actually offer. But they do have a nice design and functionality, I must admit. And lastly, this is more of a recent event, and it's an important step, I think, because it will shape Microsoft's future. The release of Windows 11, which happened in October 2021. While many of you are still in love with Windows 10, Windows 11 seems to want to evolve independently from the same old type of interface and reiterations of the previous Windows versions. A new sleek design and improved functionality will eventually lead to a whole new operating system and new methods of integration with other devices around you in a way neither of us has been thinking about yet. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video about some of the most important moments in Microsoft's life, and if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content. Till next time.